Hello everyone, and thank you very much to Gretchen and to Claire and to Katie for their invitation for this opportunity to spend some time sharing some thoughts with you all today, and for all their stellar work in pulling together this amazing gathering of climate conscious Shakespeareans from around the globe. Here's to each and every one of you and to all of your endeavours. So, as you can see, I'm in a wood. Specifically, I'm in a wood on the Welcome Hills, which is just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, and even more specifically, I'm in a wood mostly comprised of sycamore trees, amongst a few other species. So this little grove of trees seems a little bit random. It's stuck here on its own on the side of the hill, overlooking the town, but it was deliberately planned. Sycamores grow quickly and they're broad-leaved, and they act as a windbreak. They shelter buildings and land that are on the other side of the prevailing wind direction, which in this country blows from the west or the southwest. You'll find sycamore groves on the western edges of all kinds of country estates and villages and towns all across England, protecting the human and the more than human inhabitants on the other side. I've also got my notes up, as you can see, like Orlando, just hanging on the trees here. So look, Shakespeare knew all about sycamore groves. In Romeo and Juliet, Benvolio, he's explaining to Romeo's mum where he saw Romeo that morning. He says, "Madam, an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind drove me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore, that westward rooteth from the city's side, so early walking did I see your son." So some people use this speech as evidence that Shakespeare didn't go to Verona, where Romeo and Juliet is set, because in Verona the prevailing wind is not from the west. It's more changeable. There are winds that are known as the Tramonta that come from the north, or the Levant from the east, the Ostro from the south, and the Lebecchio from the west. I don't know if Shakespeare ever went to Verona on his summer holidays or not, but I instead choose to think about that sycamore reference as Shakespeare kind of using a familiar shorthand to his audience so they could easily picture the kind of environment that Romeo was mooching about in. So everybody then knew what a sycamore grove was, where it was, and why it was there. Because sycamores were planted in groves everywhere at the time, thanks to the widespread impact of deforestation. So that practice involved huge swathes of ancient forest, cut down to make room for pasture, or to create houses, or to build ships for European colonising expeditions, which of course then went away and inflicted more social and environmental damage further afield. And this practice decimated treescapes at the time, so much so that emergency crown directives were issued to protect or reforest or even afforest certain areas. The destruction of the Forest of Arden, of which this land on which I'm standing was once part, was an event that Shakespeare himself lived through. And of course, like most playwrights, he naturally referred to the endemic issues of the time in his work, hence the sycamore grove reference. So I've often wondered what's on Benvolio's troubled mind when he goes off for his wander in the sycamore grove, where he then sees Romeo. Maybe he's worried about deforestation, that's what I like to think. Whatever it is he's thinking about, both he and Romeo go to what appears to be a sanctuary to ease their troubles, but of course it's actually a kind of arboreal monument to ecocide, a foreshadowing perhaps of the sort of interpersonal and social damage that is to come in the action of the play. Don't worry, I'm not going to dwell on devastation, or use my time with you just to point out all the awful things that human beings have done to the environment in Shakespeare's time and now and all the times in between. I know most of you know all about that, which is why you're here, and you also know about it in much greater depth of knowledge than I do. Instead, what I want to do is try and better understand, as a theatre maker as well as a wannabe scholar, how I can lever that kind of environmentally aware information that's encoded inside Shakespeare's plays and make it legible to an audience today. I'm interested in action and I'm interested in hope. And just as Shakespeare sort of paid attention to the changes that were happening in his locale in his lifetime, how might a theatre maker or a production today draw an audience's attention to the impact of what was happening then and how it's manifesting now? Even how might it galvanise an audience today to engage in alleviating the worst of the climate crisis and its impacts? And crucially, how can it do that both locally and globally? By which I mean, how might it connect eco-dots from local deforestation, an example of which is where I'm standing, to damages inflicted by the global north elsewhere in the world, which is of course what happened as a result of that local deforestation. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Rehearsing repair. how might a production begin to address environmental justice? End of the outdoor filming bit. I won't leave any paper litter, don't worry. Back to my desk for the next bit.